My name is Dean Allison. I first came to the Pittsburgh Glass Center in 2005 to attend a Stephen Powell class. It was a wonderful time where I was able to cultivate a relationship with Steve, learn from him, and watch him make his work. I was also introduced to great friends during that session like Shane Farrow, Mattis Cookie, and Helen Stokes. Over the years, I've come back to teach workshops in casting. I've found more lasting friendships and used the facility to support my business. 3 years ago, me and my family moved to Pittsburgh because of the incredible Glass family and community here. The Glass Center continues to offer me many friendships and opportunities. It continues to be a place of resource, networking, and professional development in my life and career today.
Dear Pittsburgh Glass Center, sometimes life gives you lemons, and sometimes it gives you a magical and bright shining beacon. And you, Pittsburgh Glass Center, are the latter. July 26, 2010, was the first time I walked through your door, beckoned by the prospect of a flameworking class with Robert Mickelson. I enrolled, hoping to fall in love with glass again. I was between my first and second year of an MFA program in glass, and very seriously considering leaving glass as a material and maybe art altogether. It no longer fit. It was like putting on a wet bathing suit. Everything was where it's supposed to be, a great graduate program, full scholarship, following one's desires, and yet it felt all wrong. My background was in kiln working and the hot shop, but the constraints of the kiln, its availability, and the way my awkwardly naive hands endlessly created clumsy renditions of objects in the hot shop had slowly eroded the joy and the magic from my glass practice. I had never flameworked before, but Robert Mickelson's flamework glass sculpture Parasol from 2009 blew me away. It was a full-size parasol created entirely of handmade and flameworked glass lace. It was concise, exacting, large, lovely, fragile perfection. It was everything I had ever desired glass to be. Those 5 days of class were magic. They changed my trajectory as an artist and a maker. I was gifted a way to work with glass that was patient and precise and had allowed me to fall in love with my practice again. I delighted in my newly found skill, and I've been flameworking glass ever since. The Pittsburgh Glass Center had become a safe harbor in which I could grow, learn, teach, and try, and so began my yearly migrations to PGC, in which I have walked through the doors as an artist, a resident, a student, a teaching assistant, and an instructor, and each experience has been equally rewarding. Since my first visit to PGC, my life has changed. I have moved to 4 different states, taught flameworking at 3 universities, and bought a house. But the gratitude for my experiences at PGC has remained. When I began house hunting, I kept Pittsburgh on the short list. A house may be just 4 walls, but the community of people I've had the privilege to interact with, meet, and call friends at PGC over these many years has made Pittsburgh and the Glass Center a place to call home. Thanks for always keeping a light on for me. Sincerely yours, Lisa Demagal.
Hi, I'm Percy Echols II, and this is my PGC story. After graduating with a BFA focused in studio glass, I moved to Pittsburgh in 2016 for a year-long apprenticeship at the Pittsburgh Glass Center. At that time, I couldn't be sure if I would stay in Pittsburgh or even continue to do art. But I was blessed with the opportunity to tinker with a donation of neon equipment. With the chance to learn and explore the process of plasma and neon art on my own, I began my journey as an independent plasma light technician. Following that apprenticeship, I continued to grow as an artist, discovering many amazing opportunities through residencies, teaching, mentorships, and numerous connections that ultimately helped me decide that Pittsburgh was my new home. Today, podcasting and education are a part of my artistic practice. Through Taming Lightning Podcast, along with the ever-expanding community of plasma and neon artists and makers, I pioneered the development of accessible space for plasma and neon art at the Pittsburgh Glass Center.
I first came to Pittsburgh Glass Center in 2005 as a high school student. At 15 years old, I knew that I wanted to do something creative, something different, something more tough and hands-on than my traditional art classes. Being a typical teenager, there were few things that grabbed my interest. The SIO2 program offered me a new and challenging material that I wanted to conquer. When it came time for college, I decided to pursue a BFA specifically in glass. With my brand new and somewhat disillusioned experience with glass, I dove into a program at Kent State University. By the time I graduated in 2010, I had pivoted to a strictly kiln cast glass, focusing on imagery and found object. Soon after graduation, I returned to PGC as a tech apprentice. Interning at PGC introduced me to a huge network of both local and international artists. I was able to build personal connections with professional artists in addition to forging important and lasting friendships with other locals. While my time as an intern was a trying experience, I was able to use PGC's facilities to create an expansive portfolio. I continued to build my portfolio at the brew house before pursuing my MFA in sculpture in 2017 from the University of Washington in Seattle. After receiving my MFA, I returned to the area to renovate my home and studio in a vacant church north of Pittsburgh. Recently, fellow glass artist Renee Ayers and I have created our own retail gallery and studio called Spring Street Studios, Zelienople, Pennsylvania. I also continue to teach workshops for PGC, specializing in the kiln and cold studios. Pittsburgh is and always has been my home. Despite youthful ventures and far-off opportunities, I've been continuously drawn back to my hometown. PGC is not only in my hometown, but is also a home away from home. Throughout the last 18 years of my career, the Pittsburgh community has supported me and allowed me to grow into new directions. Elizabeth Fortunato.
I moved to Pittsburgh in the fall of 2001, just after finishing my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in glass. I had heard about Pittsburgh Glass Center and I wanted to be a part of this exciting new project. I was perhaps a little naive and just believed that if I moved here, I would be able to find a place in this new organization. Luckily, my persistence paid off and I started as a glassblowing assistant to our first ever artist in residence, Robin Stanaway, in early 2002. In the beginning, I taught classes at PGC and eventually ended up helping in the office a little. A little grew, and the next thing I knew, I was a full-time program associate helping to plan and execute the class and exhibition schedule. I've lost count of how many different titles I've held at PGC over the years, but I've been executive director since April of 2011. This fall is my 20th anniversary with PGC too, and I couldn't be prouder to work with all the amazing staff, artists, students, and community members each and every day.
Hi, my name is Jason Forck, and this is my PGC story. I took my first trip to PGC in the spring of 2005. I was visiting a friend in the recently created technical apprenticeship program, and he told me I should come out from Kansas for a week to meet people and try to interview for the other apprentice spot. I moved to Pittsburgh 2 months later and have been with PGC ever since. The studio and the people in it have been the backdrop to my entire adult life. I've had the chance to meet the greatest humans, one of whom I married, and glass artists along the way. I'm still somewhat in awe that all of this exists for the simplest reason, that on the most basic level, from staff to board to artists to Pittsburghers in general, people care about it. I didn't plan on being in Pittsburgh for 16 months, let alone 16 years, but I couldn't be happier with the good and bad decisions I've made and the people I've gotten to make them with.
I sat in the car and took a deep breath, not sure what to expect. Nervously, I walked up the stairs and entered the Pittsburgh Glass Center. Little did I know that walking through that door would change my life forever. In the summer of 2007, at the age of 14, I'd signed up for the Teen Boot Camp Intensive. This was a 5-day class where each day would range from 10 to 12 hours of work. In this intensive, each day of the week, we would rotate through another studio that the Glass Center had to offer. The last day of the week would be a shortened day consisting of a collaborative project or smaller individualized projects, depending on what studio you chose to work in. I was amazed and intrigued by it all, whether it was the act of grinding and cutting the glass in the cold shop, meticulously assembling glass together in the warm shop so it could be neatly placed into a kiln and fired, or in the flame shop, melting rods of glass into a 3,000-degree torch to create pendants, beads, or marbles. Nothing grabbed my attention quite like the hot shop, though. In the studio, it was a full-body engagement, a dance between you and the material that is molten glass. I quickly realized that this medium demanded your full respect and attention. If you couldn't give it that, then you would suffer for the learning process. I remember stepping into the hot shop very uncertain of what I was about to experience. The roar of the furnace and the brutality of 2,000 degrees against my skin was enough to intrigue me and terrify the living hell out of me all at the same time. However, after a 12-hour day in the studio, I had time to reflect on that car ride home. Sitting in the car, tired and sweaty, I remember thinking to myself, Zach, you could do this for the rest of your life and be incredibly happy. From there, I knew this was it. This is part of who I am. I'd finally found an artistic medium that I could express myself through. I never looked back from that moment on. I would come into the studio to take classes the PGC had to offer over 8-week sessions. I would work with the studio technicians throughout their apprenticeships, constantly learning new techniques. Eventually, I would start helping with classes as a teaching assistant, then move on to teaching myself. And from this, I knew that I could do this anywhere in the world. So I started to travel. In this, I slowly realized that no matter where you are, there's a community of people out there in the glass world waiting to welcome and accept you. Through all those travels, I have not yet found a community quite like the one at the Pittsburgh Glass Center, nor do I ever think that I will.
Hi, my name is Rocky Kindelberger. I'm a stained glass artist, and this is my PGC story. Glass art is gorgeous and mesmerizing. Glass art shimmers and shines. Glass often appears to be living. Most art is seen by reflected light only, but glass is enhanced with the visual depth and vibrance because in addition to being seen by reflected light, it is seen through transmitted light as well. I have been a stained glass artist since August of 1978. My glass art education has occurred in a variety of schools, studios, and classes located mostly in the northeastern U.S. My PGC story starts in 2007. My wife and I were eating breakfast one morning. I was telling a story about my great-grandfather, Thomas Daffabaugh, a glassblower by trade in Wheeling, West Virginia, and the Ohio Valley. I wondered whether there were any genetic traits or markers that might enhance glassblowing potential. I also wondered if I might be so endowed. My wife's response was to suggest that I should take a glassblowing class at the Pittsburgh Glass Center. With that advice in mind, I became a member of PGC and took 4 regular glassblowing classes and a week-long summer intensive. As a result, I discovered that if there are any genetic traits that enhance glassblowing, I do not have them. The good news is that I discovered many of my current best friends among the artists, students, and administrators of the Glass Center. They are the finest group of individuals that I have had the good fortune to be associated with. I have remained a member of PGC and have taken over 25 classes, intensives, and workshops since 2007. They have encompassed fusing, flame working, glass blowing, sandblasting, mold making, glass painting, and using recycled glass. I have also been the primary stained glass instructor for the past 9 years. I can assure you that glass art has been more enjoyable and fulfilling than I could have imagined.
In 1999, I moved to Pittsburgh to attend school. After a few years in the area, I became interested in glass and was encouraged by a dear friend and artist, Lindsay O'Leary, to take a class at the newly opened Pittsburgh Glass Center, where she worked in their office at the time. My first 8-week Hot Glass 1 instructor was Michael Fig Magnifico, an amazingly talented local glass artist. And my private lessons instructor was Heather McElwee, now the executive director at PGC. It was a much smaller glass community here back then, but still a great one. A few years, classes, and private lessons later, I eventually chose to further my education with glass and moved to Tennessee in 2006 to attend the Appalachian Center for Craft and study under Curtis Brock. After finishing school, I returned to Pittsburgh. I chose to come back because I fell in love with this city and the great people I met while living here the first time, but also because of the Pittsburgh Glass Center. The ability to access a state-of-the-art public facility for glassmaking weighed heavily in my decision to return. Over the last 10 years of being back, it has been amazing to meet the different people who came to Pittsburgh because of the Glass Center and then decided to stay and make it their home. It has been wonderful to see this community grow, and I am thankful to be a part of it.
I love PGC because it is where I first learned and still learn how to create with glass. But more importantly, because I have gotten to know many people who also create with glass, notably the PGC staff, who are supportive, generous, thoughtful, passionate about glass, and work hard to make PGC an exceptional place to learn and grow. I really love PGC people.
My experience with the Pittsburgh Glass Center has been profound and deeply meaningful to me because it exists within the truth that as a Black artist in the environment and in the landscape of Pittsburgh and in the ecosystem regionally and nationally, there has been an awakening of arts organizations and institutions to the value of Black lives and to the value of the lives and the work of people of color and marginalized communities and trans lives and queer lives. And inside of that awareness of really needing to be present to an entire human community and an institution, there's the way that I have sometimes been used as a guinea pig for institutions that are floating through different places and language around equality, diversity, and inclusion, and have actually had experiences inside of different institutions and systems that have been really harmful because the institution hasn't done the internal work to be present to the ways, to be really transparent with the ways that they've been harmful and to move into a transparent process of justice within the system, within the institution. So I've been like a guinea pig in so many different residencies and so many different institutions where people are trying out justice without doing the dimensional internal work. And so I had a chip on my shoulder going into my residency at the Pittsburgh Glass Center because of past harm that I'd experienced and going in like, what's going to happen this time? What are they going to say? What are they going to do that lets me know that my presence here isn't about my life and work as an artist, but my presence here is about them trying to change their face and change their image as a community institution, but without doing the work, but really about image and about branding. And so I had this chip on my shoulder going into my first day in residence at the Pittsburgh Glass Center. And I move through the world with the truth that art and love are intimately connected. They're part of the same engine. And in the love part of the engine of my art making life and process is that I share. The sharing is a huge part of the joy of being an artist. So I'd bring kids with me, like the kids from my neighborhood. I'll be like, I'm going to a museum, I'm doing a talk, do you want to come? And so I said, I have a residency at a glass center. Do you want to see what it's like to make glass for this little kid in my neighborhood? And she came with me to the glass center. It was like the first day of my residency, I think, and I was working with Jason, maybe the first or second day of my residency. Whatever it was, I had not lost the edge of experiencing of waiting to experience something bad happen to me and my residency, which had been so familiar to me. So I was really sort of hyper vigilant about the way I was being spoken to and the ways I was being treated, just sort of waiting for something bad to happen. And what ends up happening this one specific day that I bring this kid with me is that I get a phone call while I'm at the residency, and she's sort of being shown around and work is happening in the hot shop, and I get a phone call that says, Vanessa, the riot police are in front of your house, like the SWAT team is in front of your house. Are you okay? Is everything okay? And so I called my neighbor and I was like, is the SWAT team at my house? And she said, no, they're at the house 2 doors from yours, which was the house of the little child that I had brought with me. And so over the course of several hours, this SWAT situation is unfolding in my neighborhood, and I have the child of these people with me at the Glass Center. And at some point I had to tell the people of the Glass Center, hey, this thing is happening and I have this kid and I don't know if I'm going to be able to take her home. I don't know if she's going to have a home to go back to. It's really up in the air. And so I had this anxiety, and anxiety for many reasons, because I care about her family, I care about her, but she's with me at the Glass Center and I'm supposed to be doing residency work. And what was really amazing that day that helped me to understand that the Glass Center was receiving my presence there as not a tool or a token of a sort of mission to be inclusive or to be diverse or anything, but that they actually experienced me as a human being, is the moment when I saw Heather, the executive director of the Glass Center, carrying the little girl on her back through the space, and they were laughing and they ordered her food, and it was really a space of community, a space that felt like family, a space that felt safe, which then that experience of seeing the ways that care extended beyond my presence and my labor as an artist, but extended to me as a human being and as a member of community with other human beings, which might sound like an oversimplification of being in human relationship, but it's not, because I find that it is actually missing from so many different institutions and organizations. So that allowed me to be whole as a human being, as an artist, as a Black person in Pittsburgh, in the region, in this nation, present with all of that in the space, which allowed me to create work then that held a dimensional substance of in my creative process. I was able to show up more wholly as a human being, because at the Pittsburgh Glass Center I had been treated as a whole human being and not less than that. And that allowed me to create work and to be challenged in the creation of work and to push myself creatively and to push the themes that I worked in a way that I didn't have to be afraid that the institution was going to censor me, and they didn't. Pittsburgh Glass Center is honestly nationwide one of my favorite organizations. I travel a lot, I get to visit a lot of spaces, and I am always impressed with the way that they hold space and they make space for wholeness, which is really an important part of being a community citizen. It is an important part to the lives of the human beings, of everyone who comes in the space and interacts around the space and lives the space, because there is it is a lie that there are all these places of separation in our humanity. And I found that the Pittsburgh Glass Center breaks down as many of these really harmful boundaries to our wholeness and our humanity in the ways that they move and create. I love the Pittsburgh Glass Center.
The Pittsburgh Glass Center and its community of artists means so much to me. PGC is a place where artists come to learn and share experiences, techniques, and the challenge of working with glass. I have many fond memories of the week-long summer intensive classes, the friendships that develop, as well as the socializing that occurs after a late night in the studio and at the end of the week. I also thoroughly enjoy working with the public, instructing for one of PGC's many public experiences or demonstrating glass blowing at the public events using PGC's mobile hotshop. PGC brings together artists, instructors, and students from all around the world to teach and learn at this wonderfully supportive facility, and I find the mix of cultures, talents, and ideas incredibly energizing.
Whether fate or luck, the events that brought me to PGC in the fall of 2008 changed the course of my life. A young graduate, unaware of how to thrive as an artist, PGC's tech apprenticeship offered me guidance, a home, and a community of the most inspiring individuals. So many amazing memories come flooding to mind, from late nights working in the studio, happy hours after a long week of class, the merriment of a Clarkaway holiday party, a bombardment of water balloons, to countless times seeing the amazement in a visitor's eyes as they experience glass for the first time. How lucky are we to have so many talented artists travel to Pittsburgh to install a breathtaking gallery show, teach a class, or participate in a residency. The knowledge I have gained from these visiting artists has continued to ignite my love of glass while also propelling my technical abilities and the direction of my work. It has also led to some of the most amazing friendships I could ever have imagined. From the staff I'm honored to work with and consider family, to glass artists located around the world, I am so lucky to be part of a community of such talented, thoughtful, passionate individuals.
As an artist, you don't realize what kind of influences and ideas are going to affect you, but it all comes together as a mixtape of your soul. The Pittsburgh Glass Center made my dreams of working for myself in my own mosaic and jewelry studio a reality. As a technical apprentice, I learned how to maintain a studio building while also building lifelong relationships. In addition, the teaching opportunities and administrative tasks helped me understand customer service and starting my own business. The story of Pittsburgh-made products is an American history I am proud to be a part of. The community of people around PGC offers a constant connection fueled by the love of glass. I found my people and my home.